What's up guys, Damianer122. It's another list video for you guys today. The best XYZ monsters in the game that aren't rank 4s. Because frankly, you could make the entire list the rank 4 toolbox and that would probably be a pretty valid list. And that's kind of cheesy and dumb, so I want to spread the love. In order to do that a little more efficiently, we're going to do, entry 12 is a rank 12 and entry 1 is a rank 1. And we're going to just kind of chunk down a list. And at a later date, I'll do a rank 4 list of just the XYZs that are really good in the rank 4 toolbox. Alright guys, let's get started. Super Quantum Mech King Great Magnus, the Megazord. This card's amazing, and sadly he didn't have much stiff competition to go against, so his victory at the rank 12 spot's a little dumb, but he does well deserve to be on the list all the same. When this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 3 Super Quantum XYZ monsters from the graveyard to the field, most likely the stuff that was attached to him. That's great, because that means if your opponent somehow deals with him, you can just get back all the stuff that you made with him. Which is cool, because that's probably what you're using it. You're not going to make this out of level 12s, you're making this out of the field spell and having all the mini Megazords on the board at the same time. The best thing about this card though is it gains effects the more material it has stuck to it with different names. If it's got 2 or more, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card to bounce 1 card on the field back to the deck. At 3600 attack, this thing is huge, and you're probably bouncing whatever out your opponent managed to summon to get over it. And no, they can't just use a spell against it or something, because if it's got 4 or more material, which it probably does, it's unaffected by card effects. Which means, yeah, you're pretty much only out to this as Utopia the Lightning, and your opponent's just gonna bounce it back to the deck, and that freaking sucks. This thing is extremely hard to out, and it's even got another effect. 6 or more material, your opponent can't add cards from their deck to their hand. So if they have a way of searching an out to it, they can't. Alright, rank 11's a bit of a cop-out because I think there's only 2 of them, and one of them's really bad, so Pangainer. Pangainer 1, woody-doo. Now the card's not terrible, it's pretty good, mostly because you can slap this over a rank 8, 9, or 10, which means you can actually play the damn thing because there isn't any rank 11 spam decks, so you're pretty much gonna have to rely on an 8 or 10. What does it do? This thing gains 200 defense times the combined ranks of all monsters you control, which is probably itself, because it took a bunch of resources to make. But if you have another XYZ monster on board, it gets pretty big. If it's got XYZ material, every time your opponent activates a spell or trap and resolves it, you can burn them for 600 damage. So it's kind of like a really huge cowboy for game. And the icing on the cake is it does actually have a board nuke effect. Once per turn, you can detach from this card, and any monster that has a defense lower than it is immediately destroyed. That's pretty cool, and as far as the rank 11s go, it was this or the bad one, so it was this one. Alright guys, back to something halfway decent. The rank 10 train's signature card, Superior Dora. Woo! Superior Dora is actually amazing. It pretty much makes the deck. Otherwise, they don't really have much to go into. Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max is a great burn card, but other than that, he's a beatstick. They don't really have much else to make, but they do have this, and that's all they need. Well, at 3200 attack and 4k defense, woo! This thing is absolutely huge. It really well deserves its made of 2 level 10 monsters that it is. And it's got an amazing effect that once per turn during either player's turn, you can target 1 card on the field, and that card is unaffected by other card effects. Except its own, of course. Which is great, because if your opponent plays like something dumb like Moon Mirror Shield on a dumb little monster, tries to slam over it, you can just target the monster and then the Moon Mirror Shield don't do nothing. It's amazing, and they're probably going to slam into your 4k defense and take a bunch of bounce damage. That's really trolly. But primarily I think you're going to be targeting itself, because frankly, Moon Mirror Shield, no one's playing that. And most of the conventional outs to the card are spells and traps. You might try to bounce this thing with Castell or something like that, but ultimately it's not going to matter. He's going to target himself, and then you still have a giant 4k wall to deal with, and that's huge. Our rank 9 is kind of a rank 8 because that's normally what deck you're going to be making this in. However, it's still a 9 on the card, so I'm sticking it at 9. And that is number 95, Doesn't Matter Dragon. I love Doesn't Matter Dragon, he's the best. Alright, we shouldn't make fun of him. Dark Matter is an excellent card, even though he did kind of miss his chance to shine in the TCG. At 4000 attack, he is absolutely huge, and you can detach 1 from him in order to attack more than once, twice on any monsters, which is just an OTK in and of itself, assuming your opponent has like, I don't know, 2 monsters in attack mode with 0 attack, which is not going to happen, but if you have any other monsters, you're doing a ton of damage. But that's not why anyone plays Dark Matter Dragon. They play Dark Matter Dragon for its summoning ability. When it hits the field, you mill 3 dragons out of your deck. Whoo! Any dragon player will tell you that dragons in the grave are worth 5 in the hand. You're milling things like Arcbrave and the new Felgrand and maybe a White Spirit because you're playing Blue Eyes probably. And it just sets up your graveyard better than, frankly, things like Dragon's Ravine can do, or even Dragon Shrine, because you get that extra 1 mil. That 3 mils is just huge. And you probably made full armor Photon Dragon along the way, so you got the Papa card, which is just really good. And you get to banish 3 monsters out of your opponent's deck. That's super detrimental because a lot of times decks at 40 cards are very tightly constructed, and losing any 3 monsters can ruin an engine. So your opponent's either getting rid of cards that they really need for their deck to work, or they're getting rid of things that they would need to stun you, like Max C, or maybe any hand traps they might be having, because just to get rid of something to resolve the effect fully. Plus, if this was summoned turn 1, you can get to see what your opponent's playing, so this card's amazing. Alright, a real rank 8 dragon, Hope Harbinger. Now, rank 8s are full of big dragons, and they're all really good, and it was like picking your favorite kid with this one. I didn't know. There was so many good ones, but I went with Hope Harbinger because he's probably the most recently relevant of all of them. Being able to once per turn negate 1 spell your opponent uses and absorbing it as Exceed material is extremely powerful, and this is a good icing on the cake from opening a big board and locking your opponent out of being able to deal with it at all. It's also got 2 other effects that people kind of seem to forget about a little bit. When your opponent would attack one of your monsters, you can redirect that attack to him and start damage calc. Because he's at 3k attack, that means he's probably going to win, and he can help defend maybe some more of your stunny or floodgatey or support monsters that you have on the board that are there for a reason. Also, if another face-up Exceed monster was destroyed, sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your other monsters and give that monster's attack to the monster you targeted. So it kind of lets you keep and maintain the amount of attack points total you have on board to keep an OTK available to you, as well as letting you maybe crash a weaker monster into a giant monster and get the attack boost so you can crash this thing into it and actually win. A ton of fun little weird utility with those second 2 effects that when they come into effect they are game winning, but you primarily use them for number 1. Oh great, rank 7s. This list was kind of a nightmare when it came down to picking these higher rank monsters because a lot of them are really good and have seen a lot of play over the years. But I went with Red Eye's Flair Metal Dragon, the rank 7 cowboy. This card is so trolly. It can't be killed by card effects, which a lot of people kind of forget because that's not how they really use it. They use it when you only have like 1,000 life points left and they just play this thing and end their turn. Why, you might ask? Because anytime you would activate any card effect, you take 500 burn damage, which means any move you make is going to suicide yourself. It's the trolliest damn end of a game you could ever do. And there's also that dumb loop you can do with Beals to like auto kill your opponent or whatever, but that's just really silly. And to be fair, it does have an Exceed effect where you can detach material to summon a Red Eye's normal monster from the grave, which would be the 2 Geminis or vanilla Red Eyes. So if you're actually playing this in the deck it was meant for, it does have a little bonus utility. Alright, rank 6 is an odd one because it's Cyber Dragon Infinity. This card's amazing, but to call it a rank 6 is kind of a technicality. You normally play this in a rank 5 machine spam deck like Cyber Dragons, or that ABC deck, or whatever it is. You make Cyber Dragon Nova and then slap this thing on top of it. However, this is a rank 6, so I'm going with it. What does he do, you might ask? Well, if you don't know, that's completely ridiculous, but anyway. You can target 1 monster in the field in attack position and attach it to this card as Exceed material. Which is great because you can target your own stuff if you leave your board with like maybe a Cosmo, I don't know, small pilot in attack mode for whatever combo you had to do, and you don't want that thing to get smashed over, so you just stick it on this thing. But, or more importantly, you're probably sucking up one of your opponent's monsters to deal with it and also give this thing an attack boost. Because did I mention it gets 200 attack for each material stuck to it? Oh, that's all just fun and games. Its main utility is the fact that it has a once per turn negation effect. You can detach 1 Exceed material from this card and negate any card effect your opponent uses once per turn. Oof, you play this thing like during main phase 2 and past, your opponent is going to have a really hard time dealing with your board. There's stupid game states I've seen with this thing and Hope Harbinger, or this thing and Dark Law, and you're just like, GG, that's all I got. Alright, rank 5 is another interesting rank for XYZ monsters because there isn't as many of them, but it's a more quality over quantity thing. A lot of them are particularly good. And Constellar Pleiades is probably arguably the best one. You could make an argument for Cyber Dragon Nova because it is a stepping stone to infinity, but that seems kind of like a cop-out and kind of dumb. I'm actually going to go for a monster that has a really good effect that actually saw tons of play. Sure, he's a little outdated and most people would just go into infinity instead if they can make this card because they're probably playing rank 5 machines. But even still, Pleiades is great because he does have a quick effect he can use on either player's turn to bounce one face-up card on the field back to the hand. It doesn't specify monster cards, meaning this can deal with weird floodgatey face-up traps and spells as well, and obviously be able to bounce your opponent's monsters. Or even your own if you're doing some weirdo combo. He just has a ton of utility and saw tons of play, so it'd be really kind of a shame not to include him on the list. Alright, for the exact reason why Cyber Dragon Infinity was rank 6's spot, you don't have a rank 4. We actually have a rank 5 in its place. However, because I want to put all the rank 4s on another list, I found this thing as a cop-out. Number S39, Utopia the Lightning. Woo! See what I did there? Because you probably are making this with level 4s and slapping it over Utopia, but that is completely counterproductive to what I said about Infinity, but whatever, just roll with it. At 2500 attack, he's got a pretty decent stat line, which is great, but we don't really care about that. What we actually care about is his effect. When he declares an attack, your opponent can't use card effects till the end of the battle phase, meaning he's a big Armades. And what? He gets to be a bigger Armades if he has a Utopia monster stuck to him because you can detach 2 materials from him during damage calculation to double his attack to 5k. Holy crap. He is a problem solver. Sure, your Dark Destroyer or your Chaos Max or your Great Magnus can't be affected by card effects. I don't care. I'm gonna go up to 5k and smash over it. And you can't even float because I'm negating all effects that affect during the battle phase. Wow, this thing is amazing. It almost single-handedly replaced half the rank 4 toolbox simply because if you don't have the room for the entire toolbox, he's a great option because he, like I said before, he is a problem solver. Alright, the rank 3 was another difficult one. You know what? Fine, I'm not gonna stop saying that. They were all difficult. But anyway, the rank 3 is Dante, Traveller, the Burning Abyss. Now, this one's a bit of a weird one, however, because Dante himself isn't particularly broken. He's a pretty balanced card, I would say. Starting at 1000 attack and changing his battle position if he does declare an attack, kind of offsets the fact that when he gets to mill 3 cards, he gets an attack boost up to 25k. I mean, I guess you could mill less, but that doesn't happen that much. But what makes Dante so very good is the decks that you play him in. Specifically Burning Abyss or PK Fire, but a lot of decks that can make level 3s will make this thing because they like stuff in the graveyard for the setup. Burning Abyss monsters do things when they hit the grave. This thing puts them in the grave for them to activate their effects. It's amazing. And the way they worded the card, his effect to mill is part of the cost and the detach, so it's not like you can negate his effects to stop your opponent from milling. Sure, you won't get the attack boost, but is that really what they're trying to do? No. And you get a bunch of effects off. It's just amazing. This card really makes the Burning Abyss archetype, as well as being a great engine for the entire deck. Not to mention when he dies, you get to add a Burning Abyss card back to your hand, so either you add him back to the extra deck or you're getting something back like Fire Lake to use again. And we all know that Fire Lake is that's such a bad card, right? Ooh, it's... Ooh, I don't like to include a lot of OCG cards on these lists because, I don't know, we haven't really got to see how their impact on the TCG is yet and things like that, but it's Tree Toad. I love Tree Toad. He's so good. How can I leave him off? He's so cute. Got an orange on his head. He's an amazing card and pretty much makes frogs come out of left field to be a meta deck. What? A lot of low-level water decks can really pump out rank 2s. The issue was, besides crumble logos, we really don't have anything decent to go into until we got basically rank 2 Infinity. Once per turn, you contribute 1 Aqua-type monster in order to negate 1 card effect. Half the time he's tributing himself, especially if you summoned him with Bahamut Sharks who doesn't have material to get out his other stuff, because during your standby phase, you can detach from him to summon a frog from your deck. Oh boy, a frog from your deck, you summon Swap Frog, probably. This lets you get a mill, then during your main phase, you add him back to your hand, normal, mill, broke. This card is amazing. It's so good, people are running Frog the Jam just to make this thing. That's how absurdly stupid the whole thing is. And like any good meta XYZ monster, it floats! When it goes to the graveyard, you add a water back to your hand, which is probably himself, so you can just summon him again. I love this card and I can't wait to get my hands on a playset. Alright, like any good list, there are a few honorable mentions I just couldn't go without actually talking about. These are cards that were really good and could have taken their spots but didn't because they got edged out by either a technicality or simply they are not quite as good as this other broken crap. Anyway, first one is Ultimate Falcon. He's very similar to your Magnus in a lot of respects. He's unaffected by card effects, he's really big, and he's kind of the boss monster of the rogue deck. They're both summoned by a spell effect, but let's be honest, you can search field spells a lot better than you can search rum cards, which is probably his weakest part. Although he can debuff every card your opponent has to lower their attack, which makes him even harder to get over. And if he's got a Raid Raptor stuck to him, you can debuff your opponent's monsters even more, and you can hit him for some burn damage. Pretty solid card, to say the least. And then when I was doing rank 8s, Felgran came up. Sorry, buddy. Basically the inspiration for Superior Dora, Felgran is an amazing rank 8 card, and sometimes versus certain decks, he's almost impossible to deal with. Again, as a quick effect, he can target any monster on the field to make it unaffected by other card effects. But he does have the bonus utility of being a little more offensive, because he also negates the effects of whatever he poked at. Meaning, you can also use him to negate one of your opponent's effects, as well as preventing him from being hit by things like Regeki. Beatrice the Eternal Lady. Now here's one I really hated not putting on the list because she's amazing. She's a rank 6 Lavalval chain for Pete's sake. She can mill any card out of your deck, which is great because we have tons of stuff that do stuff in the graveyard, especially Burning Abyss, the deck she's for, but you can make her in anything that can put out to level 6. Unless you're playing rank 3s, then you just slap her over Dante at the cost of discarding a Burning Abyss. That's really a cost. Sure, she can't use her effect the turn she's summoned that way, but she's a quick effect. You just do it when your opponent draws a card. You can farfare their stuff. She's just really good. Oh, and again, she floats, goes into Pilgrim. I guess you could go into Virgil too, but you're going into Pilgrim. And last but not least, for the number 1 spot, we had S0. S0 is a great card, and it almost made the list, simply because it's amazing. You do have to make it with 3 number monsters, however, which is a little awkward, especially because they have to have the same rank. However, you can alleviate that annoying summoning condition by slapping this over Utopia and discarding a rank up magic card. Issue being, you have to run rank up magic cards. I guess something like Raid Raptors could run this pretty effortlessly because they have to run rum anyway. But aside for some annoying summoning conditions, it does cover its bases. Your opponent can't negate or respond to the summon, meaning that sure, it's a pain in the dick to get out, but you are going to absolutely be able to play it. And once per turn, you can detach from this card so your opponent can't use card effects for the rest of the turn. It does get a boost for all the Exceed monsters on the field, but yeah, that's not what we care about. We care about those effects. Overall, a really good card, but it did lose the number 1 spot to F-Zero Captain Falcon.
Falcon Punch!
This card is a really strange one, because half the time you play it because you just needed room. Cosmos and PK Fire or Burning Abyss can just play this thing pretty much anytime they want, especially if they need to free up a monster slot. Basically, you have any 2 non-number monsters of like rank and just overlay those instead and just slap this over it. But that doesn't stop the thing from having a pretty nasty effect. Can't be killed in battle, and you don't take any battle damage involving it, which is great because it does have 0 attack. And when it battles an opponent's monster, you can take that monster until the end of the battle phase. It doesn't target, which is a great thing because in the Cosmo Mirror match, you don't have a really great option for your opponent's Dark Destroyer. Oh, and this would be killed by card effects, you can detach from it to save its life. So it does actually use this material, even though that's really not its majority of its effect. This card is a great little tech card and has actually seen quite a bit of play recently. Anyway guys, that was the list. I hope you enjoyed it. It's actually the second time filming it. The first time I was all washed and looked like crap and it took forever anyway. It was gonna be tons of editing. So, you know, woot second take. Hey guys, let me know in the comments below if I forgot any really cool cards. Let me know what you guys think. And remember guys, if you don't troll the meta, who will? I'll see you guys at 10K. And the last topic I want to talk about is actually a little mild ban list discussion. Because it's ban list season.